look at any art, you should forget any preconceived ideas that you have about it and allow yourself to be open to it. If this is art, then this is a different type of art than I've been led to understand what art is all about, because there's a physicality and an intimacy to the work that's here. There's a sense of material, whether it's the stone or the sticks or the sand, and they relate to that. And it opens them up to the possibility that art can be something more than that which is hung on the wall, and I love paintings, and that which can be put on a pedestal. Western society really suffers from the burden of mimesis, of making natural looking art. Other cultures don't. And I'm tremendously affected by other cultures, particularly small-scale cultures, that regard the sort of animism that's in an object like a stone. Despite that burden that we have of pretension towards naturalism and realism, I think still the stones will speak for themselves. This type of art will speak to itself, and it reaches people in a very different way than a painting on a wall or a standard sculpture of something that's representation. People have an anticipation of what art is. And if that's their anticipation, maybe we can undermine that and heighten their experience by presenting a different way of looking at stones, of looking at the sticks, and looking at the world around us. And how do we relate to our environment? We tend to take things out of the environment and isolate them in frames and put them on pedestals instead of saying, no, it's actually part of the flowing world. This is just one moment in that flowing world, which then flows outside. There's a concept in art that maybe has been forgotten now. It started in the Renaissance and really hit a high point in the Baroque. It's called coexistential space. And what that means is that the art shares a type of space that corresponds to our existence. It coexists with us. And so that we can go into this for a while and then we can come back out. And we're back in the normative world with the dream of this behind us. I started doing large-scale environmental works about 20 years ago. And they were all temporary work, where I would take like a historic reality of what was the original shoreline of New York City, old New Amsterdam, to mark the original shoreline in two lines, one blue for the water side, one green for the land side. And that ran for about 4 miles along what are now the streets of New York City. I have never been in someone's home in which they haven't had on a shelf or a table somewhere a few stones that they've picked up from a beach, from a vacation, from a trip to the Alps, up to the Adirondacks. And the interesting thing I find about that is that these stones have been rescued from anonymity. And they identified themselves to the people who found them as having a certain sort of personality, which the person who now is their benefactor, their custodian, if you will, identifies with. There's an empathy. So there's an empathy between myself and the stone. It doesn't lose its stoniness. It's still a stone. But I take that just one step further, and I bring my art to that stone. I'm not trying to disassociate it from its environment, because it's still a stone. The stone becomes a place. And as a place, what I do in my art is I bring art to a place, whether it's this stone and all these stones or some very large environmental project that I've done. For the past 20 years, I've been creating environmental pieces out of doors that tell the story of the specialness of place, whether it's mythic or spiritual or nature or historic. Try to create places, places that are different than the normative places in our environment, places that have a kind of magic to them that we can share, that you can walk into the piece, experience it in a very intimate way, and then walk away from it. And all of my pieces are temporary. So what it really does is it gives you an immediate experience, and then it leaves you with a type of dream about what that experience was, so that you can come back and think about it later. What has been so rewarding to me is to experience the responses that people have had. For something to be art, it had to be new, and it had to be strange. And by strange didn't mean weird, it mean strange, not normal. I really look outside of that and more into my own sensibility, my own sense of spirituality, my own sense of who I am and how I relate to the art world. When I bring glass or slate or marble into the pieces, it's bringing the cultured landscape that human beings bring to a landscape, and then it combines with the natural landscape. But even if the stones are marked with pastel, as they are here, they become something different than stones. They still remain stones. A sacred stone is still a stone, even though it's sacred. This stone now becomes part of the world of art, and that's a different way of experiencing what you see than in the normative way of experiencing our environment outside this window. What I bring to art is another step in a different direction, and that is, for me, art is a type of place. It's a type of environment. It's where I live my life. And if I can convey that through environments that have some sense of magic to it, that have something that is out of the ordinary, then I've succeeded.